There is an ancestral sequence capable of teaching the body to stop fearing its own healing, dissolving the fear that keeps trauma active even when everything indicates you could move forward. The problem isn't a lack of effort or conscious resistance, but a silent somatic mechanism that recognizes improvement as risk and reacts by closing the chest, shortening the breath, and locking the energy at the exact instant relief approaches. In the next few minutes, you will discover how to remove this fear from the command function through direct body practices that re-educate the nervous system without passing through the mental narrative. There is something about this specific time that makes the body more able to release old defenses. A convergence between a collective cycle and a biological window that will be explained later. But that determines whether the reorganization happens now or remains postponed for more years. If you stop this video before completing the sequence, you will miss the exact moment when the body could learn that moving through healing no longer requires the vigilance it required in the past, keeping active the same retraction that consumes your vital energy and paralyzes creative movement. What sustains this pattern is about to be revealed. This automatic containment operates because fear still performs a structural function within the trauma, keeping it organized and active in the body. While fear occupies that place of command, it not only blocks progress, it fulfills a specific biological task, preserving a defensive pattern that was once necessary and never received permission to dissolve. Trauma, in that sense, is not passive memory, but operational memory, sustained by an invisible pillar that needs to be removed, not destroyed. Egyptian alchemists understood that every true transmutation requires the inner furnace to recognize heat as reorganization, not as a threat of dissolution. In the temples of Thoth, healing was treated as an update of living matter, a process in which the body needed to feel safe enough to release the old form without collapsing into emptiness. When that safety was missing, the substance remained rigid, faithful to the known structure, even if obsolete. What happens biologically is that the nervous system maintains defensive states, while it does not recognize a safe field to transition. The vagus nerve, responsible for modulating between protection and presence, reads the internal and external environment in continuous cycles, deciding in milliseconds whether the body can relax or needs to arm itself. When that reading detects subtle danger, even residual, the breath rises. The fascia contracts around vital organs, and spatial perception narrows into tunnel vision. This protocol was designed to save lives in real threats, but it remains active in symbolic threats that the body has not learned to differentiate. The present moment carries something that makes this reorganization possible now. You are moving through a liminal period, a time of transition in which old patterns become visible and the nervous system gains enough plasticity to release defenses without falling apart. This window is not emotional, it is biological and collective, creating conditions for the body to finally update its reading of danger and recognize that the present no longer requires the armor of the past. What you feel as diffuse weight or causeless tiredness is the body hesitating on this threshold, waiting for a signal that crossing is safe. There is someone who arrived at exactly this point, realized that every attempt at improvement triggered immediate retreat, and discovered how to remove fear from the function it still performed. What this person lived will show how the body learns through direct experience that healing can happen without danger. Tracy was 47 and worked as a dentist in a neighborhood clinic where she treated entire families. Children who grew up in her chair, adults who always came back. The routine was stable, predictable, but in the last 2 years, something had changed internally. She could sense she was about to make important decisions, expand the clinic, hire another professional, reduce her own workload, but every time she approached those moves, her body reacted with immediate containment. Her chest closed first, as if someone tightened an invisible band around her ribs. Her breath rose and became short, trapped between the throat and the sternum. The solar plexus hardened into a block, preventing any feeling of lightness or expansion. Tracy recognized these signals because they came with sudden giving up, as if moving forward were too risky and retreat were the only sensible option. She would start planning concrete changes and, days later, simply stop, with no clear reason, only with the impression that something was wrong, that the time wasn't right. She tried cognitive therapy for 8 months, worked on limiting beliefs, identified patterns of self-sabotage, but none of that touched the root of the containment. She tried restorative yoga 3 times a week, but the thoracic rigidity returned a few hours after each class. She experimented with guided breathing techniques, meditation apps, supplements for anxiety, but the body kept reacting the same way whenever the possibility of expansion approached. The problem wasn't in the mind, it was inscribed in the tissue. It was on Christmas Eve, while she was getting the house ready to receive the family, that Tracy found an old box in the living room closet. Inside, there was a notebook from her maternal grandmother with notes about body practices she performed in moments of passage. There was a specific passage about teaching the body to recognize safety through gaze orientation, rhythmic breathing, and touch over the center of the chest, described as signals the internal system understood without words. Her grandmother had written in the margin, "For when the body forgets, it can rest." Tracy began applying it that very night, alone in her bedroom after everyone fell asleep. She softened and widened her gaze without focusing on anything specific. Took 2 deep, quick breaths through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth, and placed her right hand over the sternum while keeping her left on the upper abdomen. In the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then she felt warmth rising under her palms, a subtle micro-tremor moving through the chest, and her breath dropping on its own, without effort, down to the lower abdomen. What happened in the days that followed began to show that something in her internal reading of danger was being updated. But before knowing what truly changed in Tracy's life, you need to experience in your own body what she began to feel in that moment. What you are going to do is re-educate the reading the nervous system makes of the present, removing fear from the function it still occupies. This sequence begins with wide orientation, an adjustment in spatial perception that shifts the body out of the tunnel vision characteristic of the defensive state. When the gaze narrows, the nervous system interprets this as a signal of imminent threat and keeps the containment active. Expanding peripheral vision without moving the head informs the body that the space around is safe, allowing it to release excessive vigilance. Sit comfortably, spine upright but without rigidity, feet supported on the floor. Fix your gaze on a point in front of you, but without focusing on it intensely. Keeping the eyes fixed, expand your lateral perception, as if you could notice movement at the edges of the visual field without turning your head. Notice the space to the left and to the right simultaneously, without effort, simply allowing the vision to expand softly. Hold this for 30 seconds, breathing naturally while observing what happens in the body. You may begin to notice the breath dropping on its own, without command. The chest may soften slightly, the jaw relax, the shoulders release weight you didn't even realize you were holding. This is the sign that the vagus nerve is shifting from defensive mode to receptive mode. If the vision narrows again, simply return gently to width without forcing. The body is learning that it can perceive the whole space without needing to arm itself against it. Keeping the wide vision, introduce vagal breathing through the physiological sigh, a breathing pattern that reduces autonomic load directly. Inhale deeply through the nose, then take a second short inhale, filling the lungs completely. Exhale long and slowly through the mouth, emptying all the air. Repeat this 3 times, feeling the air coming in 2 quick waves and going out in a single slow, continuous stream. Pay attention to what happens in the diaphragm, in the solar plexus, and at the base of the throat. With each cycle, you may perceive warmth spreading through the chest, a sensation of inner space widening, or even spontaneous yawns arising. These are signs that the nervous system is releasing accumulated tension and allowing the breath to return to the natural resting pattern. If you feel light dizziness, reduce the intensity of the inhales, keeping the rhythm but with less depth. What matters is not force, it is the continuity of the pattern. Continue for 2 more minutes, alternating between keeping the wide peripheral vision and performing the physiological sigh at regular intervals. Observe whether the weight in the body changes, whether the temperature shifts, whether some region that was rigid begins to yield. Don't force anything, just notice. The body is receiving new information about the current state, updating the reading of danger that kept the defensive pattern active. Before moving on to the next stage, there is something essential you need to know about what happened with Tracy after that Christmas Eve, because what she discovered in the days that followed will show exactly what is beginning to reorganize in you right now. Tracy practiced the sequence every morning during the 2 weeks after Christmas. On the 3rd day, she noticed she was able to finish the hiring plan without stopping halfway through, something she had been postponing for months. On the 5th day, she had a difficult conversation with the clinic partner about redistribution of responsibilities and sustained presence throughout the entire exchange without feeling her chest close. The chronic fascial rigidity she carried between her shoulder blades decreased progressively, and she noticed she woke up without the sensation of weight in the chest that had accompanied her over the last few years. What really changed was the ability to sustain decisions without retreating days later. Tracy hired the new professional, reduced her own workload by 20%, and began planning a trip she had been postponing forever. The body had learned, through repetition of the sequence, that moving forward no longer required the vigilance it required before. Fear was still present in specific moments, but it no longer occupied the place of command that organized the entire defensive response. She perceived the difference in the body. The breath dropped naturally, the solar plexus remained loose even in the face of uncertainties. and the sensation of being on the threshold between ending something old and beginning something new stopped paralyzing her. What Tracy discovered on that Christmas Eve, when the body began to recognize that this time of closing and beginning allows deep reorganization, is what you are experiencing as you practice. Just as certain periods carry the symbolism of releasing the old to receive the new, the nervous system also recognizes specific windows for undoing defenses that no longer serve. You are moving through this threshold, updating the internal reading of danger and allowing the present to be lived without the armor of the past. Complete the sequence with the gesture of safety, a tactile anchoring that signals to the body that expansion does not equal exposure. Place your right hand over the center of the sternum, fingers pointing up, and your left hand over the upper abdomen, just below the sternum, fingers pointing down. Maintain a gentle pressure, firm but not heavy, as if you were offering protective containment, not defensive containment. Breathe naturally and notice the warmth that begins to form under the palms. With each exhale, increase the pressure slightly, as if you were gently pressing inward, and with each inhale, ease the pressure, letting the chest expand freely. This rhythm creates a direct dialogue with the nervous system, informing it that containment is available when necessary, but that expansion is also allowed. Continue for 90 seconds, observing whether the pulse beneath the hands becomes more noticeable, whether the temperature changes, whether some subtle emotion begins to move. You may notice micro tremors in the chest, spontaneous sighs, or a sensation of weight dropping from the chest to the abdomen and legs. These are signs that the body is releasing chronic containment and allowing energy to circulate without blockage. If tears come, let them. If yawns arise, allow them. The body is completing defensive cycles that were left suspended and releasing load that no longer needed to be sustained. Integrate everything. Wide peripheral vision, physiological sigh in a slow rhythm, and the hands maintaining rhythmic touch over the sternum and upper abdomen. This combination creates a complete circuit of safety signaling, informing the nervous system through 3 channels simultaneously that the present is safe, that containment is available when necessary, and that the body can finally release the defense that kept the trauma operational. Remain like this for 2 more minutes, simply noticing without seeking a specific result, simply allowing the reorganization to happen. The central practice is complete, and what comes next seals this transformation in the body. The sign that the reorganization happened is in the breath, dropping naturally down to the lower abdomen without conscious effort. If you notice that the air comes in and out with full amplitude, reaching regions that previously remained blocked, the nervous system updated the reading of safety and removed fear from the command function. This marker is not subtle, it is tangible, and it can be verified at any moment by placing a hand over the abdomen and observing whether it expands on the inhale without resistance. To anchor this new state, use the integration touch whenever you need to reaffirm internal safety. Place your right hand over the sternum, press gently for 3 full, slow breaths, then release. This gesture takes between 30 and 40 seconds, can be done discreetly in any environment, and works as a somatic reminder that the body recognizes the present as safe. Repeat whenever you feel the need to reconnect with the state reached in this practice. When you feel the chest begin to close, at the moment something good approaches, pause wherever you are, gently widen peripheral vision without moving the head. Do a full physiological sigh. Place your hand over the sternum and repeat internally. Fear does not need to command. This protocol interrupts the automatic containment reaction and returns to the body the capacity to choose presence instead of defense. Use it as many times as necessary over the next days and weeks, especially in moments of transition or important decision. The sequence is sealed. The body carries with it the reorganization lived. And what comes now expands the field of understanding of what you sustain from this point on. The body that used to react with containment at the moment healing approached recognizes something different. The breath drops without command. The chest remains loose, even in the face of uncertainties. And the vigilance that consumed vital energy is no longer necessary. You did not move through only a practice. You moved through a threshold where the nervous system updated the reading of danger and allowed the present to be lived, without the armor of the past. This reorganization is not temporary, it is structural, and it sustains itself as long as you repeat the safety signals the body learned to recognize. The sequence lived here is part of a broader path of somatic release and vagal reorganization. There are other layers of defense installed in specific regions of the body, other knots that still keep old patterns active, other ancestral practices capable of reaching memories that neither therapy nor conventional meditation can touch. What you experienced is an entryway, not the full route, and each practice reveals a different portal in the nervous system. Peter Levine wrote, "Trauma is not in the event. It is in the nervous system that did not complete the response. What you did was complete a defensive cycle that remained suspended, removing fear from the place where it sustained the pattern. The transformation did not happen because you forced passage, but because the body finally received permission to release what it preserved for too long." Just as Tracy discovered on Christmas Eve that certain periods carry the possibility of ending the old and integrating the new. You are moving through this time of healing, recognizing that the body no longer needs to sustain defenses that have already fulfilled their function. The intelligence that created the body also inscribed in it all the pathways of return. And when you align perception, breath, and conscious touch, that intelligence operates without obstacles. If this practice reorganizes something in your nervous system, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications to keep receiving content that integrates neuroscience, ancestral wisdom, and somatic practices with this depth. Share this video with someone you recognize is getting stuck precisely when they could move forward. Consider becoming a channel member. This support sustains the continuity of this work and allows more people to have access to knowledge that dissolves traumas at the root. Write in the comments, "I move through this time of healing and fear no longer commands me." This affirmation anchors in the body and in consciousness the reorganization that has just happened, solidifying the new response pattern you established. To continue this journey of somatic release and discover other defenses that may be blocking your creative force, click the video that is appearing on the screen. When the body learns that healing is not danger, trauma loses the only foundation that still sustained it, and life stops being repetition and becomes conscious creation.